Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning. Welcome to the Art and Science of Journey Mapping webinar by Kate Kompelien, Director of Customer Experience Solutions at Avtex, and Christy Westbrock, CEO of Consolidated Telecommunications Company. I am Kate Kompelien, and will bring you through the process, preparation, and execution of mapping, while Christy will share her and her team's experience of going through the customer experience transformation process with Avtex. Today we will be talking about deciding what journey to map, who is on this journey with you, and next we will spend some time on what types of data you should review to help you understand your customer's journey. Finally, we will discuss the workshop and what to do after mapping out your customer's journey. So what exactly are journey maps? First, discussion around journey maps. Journey maps come in all shapes and sizes and display an array of data. What is important is that it is brought to life in a visual way and grounded in customer understanding, not built based on employees' opinions on what they believe their customer journey is. Why use journey maps? Journey maps help an organization align around a common goal. They help a group of cross-functional and cross-channel employees visualize how the customer is going through the journey, what channel they are in, and what is getting in the way of a good experience. This visualization is often used for future discussions on what executives will support and what they won't. Having a validated map hanging up around the office reminds employees to ask their customers versus making assumptions, putting the customer first in any organization. Before we can start to understand our customer's current state journey, we first need to decide what journey we want to understand and who is on this journey. In order to help clients choose, we ask them to think about common journeys their customers have with them. Which ones do they feel are at a competitive disadvantage? Which journeys help keep their lights on? If customers did not go on this journey with you, you could go out of business. It's important to look at meaningful journeys because solving the problems on this journey will also solve problems across other journeys. We then look at the data surrounding the journey to better understand who the customer is. Christy, can you explain to the audience what journeys you decided to understand for your business and residential customers, and how you landed on mapping both your business and your residential customer experience?
Sure, thanks, Kate. Business and residential customers in our industry are very different, and we recognized this early on when exploring journey mapping. To us, we couldn't deep dive into one set of customers versus the others. They needed equal focus. We knew we wanted to advance our perception with our customers, but needed to understand their experience first.
Thank you, Christy. Now, thinking about personas and mindset development. Once you decide what customer type is on the journey with you, you will want to bring this customer to life within a persona. A persona is more than just demographic data. It also includes their values, what gets in their way in life, what they like to do, where they live, what their family is like, their attitudes towards your brand, and life in general. It's important to bring your persona to life so your employees can put themselves in their shoes versus their own. It helps them understand who they are selling to and are serving, and how they can best support this group of customers. Here we have Overwhelmed Ollie. His name, Overwhelmed, is there for a reason based on the data analysis. And be there for me means he's running a business, he's not a tech expert, and he really needs ongoing support and not to be left on his own to try to figure things out. There are endless sources of data, so how do you decide what to select? This data is intended to help you better understand your customer's journey. The data you choose to look at should directly correlate with the customer that is on the journey with you and the type of journey you are exploring. It's easy to get overwhelmed with so much data and so many data sources, but really keeping it simple and keeping it focused on the journey you're studying will help. This alone will really help simplify the amount of data you look at. It's also important when you analyze data that you're evaluating over the same time period across the different sources. Some typical sources of data are contact center calls that are around the journey you're exploring, as well as customer and digital analytics, survey results, primary or secondary research, sales data, etc. There are a lot of sources, but really understanding that journey your customer is on will help you simplify your data sources and the amount of data you look at. Once you look at all the data you have and are collecting and putting it into a spreadsheet to later be used for mapping, you can begin to understand your gaps. Your gaps are what you don't know today. Once you know what you need to learn more about, can help guide what type of behavioral research and or empathy building exercises you need to do. For a consolidated telecommunications company, we determined that we needed to better understand the service agent experience, both from their perspective as well as our customers when installing and or servicing their products. Christy, can you talk about the value of behavioral research, specifically the ride-alongs, in helping your organization understand what was getting in the way of your agents in providing a good experience for their customers, as well as inconsistencies found between agents?
The ride-alongs were accepted better than we as a management team originally thought. Our employees were actually quite receptive of the process and committed to it. We quickly identified inconsistencies, specifically in our approach with the customer. For instance, one of our technicians may go to the door, greet the customer, explain the process, while the other technician may just get to work with little or no customer interaction. Another thing we learned was scheduling time blocks. If we say that we're going to be at a business customer from 9 to 11, business customers believe that the work then will start at 9 and finish by 11. But in fact, what we were saying was that we would be there sometime between the hours of 9 to 11. It was small things like this that were pain points that we could easily fix.
Thank you, Christy. Now, determining who should be included in the mapping session, once you have acquired the data needed to build out your map, it's time for a workshop. Who you invite is just as important to the success of this workshop than the data and the map that you have. Who you will invite will depend on what journey you are evaluating. In the case of CTC, they included third-party agents, those that installed the fiber, as well as frontline employees, agents, and contact center reps. Also, those that did scheduling and provisioning, those in marketing and sales. They made sure to have present a representative from each function and channel. Why is this important? You end the day with alignment between your functions, channels, and partners on what the current state experience is and the pain points that are getting in the way of providing the best experience. Employees understand how they may be contributing to the problem and get a better understanding as to which functions and channels they should be including in future conversations. Christy, can you help the audience understand how the mapping session helps shape new and different conversations at CTC?
Yes, employees were excited because they were engaged in the process and included in the discussions and the decisions and the conversations. Different groups of employees from frontline to me, the CEO, were actively involved in different steps of the process. This brought about new conversations between departments, which were historically more siloed conversations. We were now cross-communicating.
Why map it? We map it in order to visualize the experience. Of the information our senses transmit to our brain, 90% is visual. A visual can be processed 60,000 times faster than plain text. We're capable of getting a visual sense in less than 1/10 of a second. So when we're looking at communicating a customer's journey with no room for assumptions about that journey, visualization helps everyone get on the same page and do so quickly. Christy, what are you doing yourself and as an organization with your current state journey maps? How are these maps helping the conversation in both understanding and moving forward within your organization?
We now have focus on each step of the customer process. For instance, in seeing the pain points, we've been able to redesign how our internal processes work. Job descriptions have been changing, employees' functions are changing. We've also identified a major staffing gap that needs to be resolved.
Here we have the output of the CTC current state journey map for their business member. There's a few things about the map that I want to point out that are important when you are mapping out your current state customer journey. One is to ground your persona, in this case, overwhelmed Ollie, with their mindset as the base of the map. This way, your cross-functional, cross-channel team of employees and any third parties will really start to understand who the customer is and what they're trying to achieve. Next, you want to think about the higher level journey. What are those phases of the journey that that customer is going to go through with you? And it should start before they think about you all the way until they either leave, decide to do more business, decide to buy more products, etc. So in this particular case, we also identify what Ollie is thinking across that journey, what he's doing, and based on what he's doing, what channel he's in, how he's feeling, which are the little emoticons, they line up to the thinking, the level of effort the employee is having to put out, and you can see that with the green dash line, what the customer and what the employee is interacting with within that phase of the journey while the customer is trying to get these things done, and the pain points that are involved, both for the customer and for the employee. But it's really, really important to not stop at current state mapping. If you stop at current state mapping, you will have a pretty picture to look at. You will have an understanding in your organization about what's getting in the way of your employees and your customers and having a good experience, but you won't know what the future state customer journey is going to look like. You won't have an understanding of the solutions that are going to need to be built out in order to deliver a better future state customer experience. You won't have a roadmap on how to get there or clear project charters. So it's important that after you finalize your current state journey map and prioritize the pain points, that you keep going. The next step is to move to design thinking in order to create solutions to the pain points. Next is to test those solutions back with your customers and frontline employees, and then align on goals and metrics. Without goals and metrics, you won't be sure that what you've built out is actually solving the pain points of your customers. Then you need to build out the future state customer journey so that your organization is clear on where you're moving from and moving to as an organization. Next is to execute. Here you need to understand how all these solutions fit together and what is needed from a technology, process, people, data, and training perspective. Also, who needs to be included in building out each of these solutions? Remember that your customer's experience is omni-channel. They're going to choose the channel based on what's easiest for them in that moment of time. And they know they can get that information across many of your channels. So if your channel information is not consistent, you're going to confuse the customer. Then you will need to build out your roadmap and individual project charters so you can truly solve your customer and employee pain points and needs. Christy, how did moving past current state journey mapping help you to move faster to where you find yourself today?
We were overwhelmed at the volume of information that we learned, but it was in a good overwhelmed way. We then looked at it and said, now what do we do? We were like fish out of water, trying to clearly sort through priorities, low-hanging fruit that we could easily resolve, and then toss aside pieces that didn't need focus now, but they would in the future.
Christy, can you talk about the work that was done after current state journey mapping and tell us where you are today and where you plan to move in the future?
Systems at CTC glaringly came across as a major hurdle for us. Many of our pain points, specifically internally, all were systems driven. As an organization, we had created systems on top of systems to get to our end result. While it was all quite clever, it showed great inefficiencies. So today, we're knee-deep in a total systems review, addressing investments in our current systems and what a migration to a new system could mean for us.
Overall, there are many benefits to using a customer experience transformation process. This process helps to break down silos across the organization. It aligns a group of cross-functional, cross-channel employees around what the current state experience is. It aligns the organization around a common goal on what they need to build in the future. It helps to understand your frontline employee needs and what is getting in the way of providing a great experience to your customers. It delivers solutions that will create a better experience for both your customers and your employees, and it makes decisions on funding and resourcing easy for your executives. Christy, what were the most important benefits you and your team received from going through this process with Avtex?
Aside from many of the pieces that I've already discussed with the identification of the pain points and exploring ways that we can increase our customer satisfaction, the one piece I believe is that we are so far ahead of others in completing this customer journey, and it's given us a whole new competitive advantage.
Thank you, Christy. If there are no questions, Christy and I really appreciate you joining. I'd love to answer any questions you have in the future. I have a lot of passion around helping clients with transforming their organization with customer first. My information is on this slide. Again, Kate Kompelien, Director of Customer Experience Solutions at Avtex. I look forward to conversing with you in the future.